Welcome, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of the Tom Mann Show. Thank you so much for joining us, listening, watching, excerpts, streaming. However, you guys are getting the content. We're happy that you're here. Thank you so much. Broadcast radio, of course, is our first outlet, and it's always been the play, but the podcast has grown into its own thing too. And so it's like they go hand in hand. Last week, Sarah Granitz was back, the Granitz Mindset. And for all the women out there, men too, but mostly women, Sarah Granitz and her Instagram, you need to check her out. She's been on the show twice now. She's going to become one of our regular fitness kind of guru people because I trust her, and she's awesome. I mean, she just works on a lot of different things, and she's just the bomb, and she's not blowing smoke up anybody's butt. So everything that she says, I believe in. So check that one out. Sarah Granitz, the Granitz Mindset, kind of for women, but it's a fitness nutrition. When you hear Granite's name, you know it's going to be fitness nutrition. All right, Craig Stiles. How many times have you been on this radio program? Who knows? This is his 29th visit. Unbelievable. Guy's amazing. I could say he's got a Bachelor of Science in Industrial Engineering from Arizona State University. I could say he's got an MBA with a concentration in finance, thank goodness for that, from Western Michigan University. Intermingled with his college education, he was in the Army Reserve in Bosnia. We won't say, you can look up when Bosnia was. That kind of puts the date on it. Worked for a variety of different people, worked for some big organizations, and now he is the man with Ameriprise, and he is our guy. And again, as I say all the time, you want to get your money to somebody, you got to find a fiduciary. And that's why I'm calling today's episode The Fiduciary. Because what is a fiduciary? Why do you want a fiduciary? All of it. We're going to talk about this with your financial fitness. Before we do that, though, we got to get updates. We got to get family stuff. We got weddings coming. We got kids graduating. We got things going on. Welcome back to the show. Can't wait for this wedding. I'm so stoked. I'm going to bring about 27 of my most favorite friends that aren't invited. We're just going to crash this bad, but we're invited, but we're going to crash this thing because it's going to be the biggest wedding of the summer in Michigan. And I'm invited. So, hey, there we go. Hey, Craig, how are you?
Doing well, Tom. How are you?
Good, man. Are you making those big returns to pay for that shindig that you're going to be hosting?
We're doing our best. We're doing our best.
So are we.
The year started off pretty well. Then, of course, with a lot of the current news and market fluctuations, it makes things a little more difficult, but definitely shows the importance of having a balanced strategy between growth and value and everything else. So, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I just had to reach out to you recently to adjust a couple of little tiny things.
Yep.
And you picked up the phone. We talked for quite a while. And then after this thing, we're going to do some more recordings, and then we're going to do our annual review, which we talked about last year. And I didn't understand why that's so important. But hey, before we get into all of the fiduciary stuff, let's talk about them, the whole clan. Let's start at the top. Let's start with Steph first, and then work our way backwards. Start with the youngest up to the top, and start with your wife first.
Okay. School started. That's keeping her busy.
We'll clarify that for the new listeners, that we have a bunch of new listeners out there. So why does that keep Stephanie so busy?
Well, we homeschool our kids. So with our younger kids in school starting back up, that's keeping her pretty busy. Then, of course, on top of that, she's helping to plan for the wedding and all of that with my oldest daughter. So yeah, she's definitely staying pretty busy. Helps keep me grounded in a wide variety of ways. So Stephanie's doing well. She also is staying healthy. We did have, going through Christmas time, if you will, we ended up having a sickness go through the household, so we had to cancel quite a few plans. So we spent the week of Christmas kind of getting sick, and we spent the week after Christmas recovering. But when you have 9 people not doing well, literally 2 days before Christmas, it kind of that's not a lot of fun. But it's nice to have my wife being able to, even when she was down there for a couple of days, to have other kids being able to pick up and do that. So we're truly blessed. Truly blessed.
All right. Start with the youngest all the way up to the top because the top is the one that we're going to have the big shindig for. So let's do her last. But go ahead. And you didn't mention when you're giving credit to your wife for doing all this homeschooling, how many students she has in her classroom. It's not like she has one student homeschooling.
No, not in nor like one grade either. That's correct. So typically, obviously, JoJo being 3 and Chaley being 7. So you've got preschool through well, high school because Zachariah and Peyton's a senior in high school right now. So Peyton would be 18, so he's graduating. So from 18 through 3 is what she's presently working with on a homeschooling endeavor. So it's not just a matter of going to the schools and having parent teacher conferences at those different grades and seeing how your kids are doing. She knows that. And but the other beautiful thing about it, when the weather's really cold outside and schools are closing all around because it's cold outside, school is still going on. That way her snow days are when it's 60, 65 degrees outside and she wants to get the garden planted. So there's some benefits to that.
I love
So,
it.
but
Yeah,
yeah.
I know. And the boys. Let's jump to the
Well,
boys, and then we'll get to that older one.
the boys are staying busy. My son Christian just accepted a position that he's going to be starting here beginning of February. So he's starting a new job. And my son Charlie out in Atchison, Kansas, he's got some exciting and fun stuff working on. He's looking to start a kind of a race car, if you will, or a race team for the school that he's at. So he's been working to get that up and running. It's don't think there's going to be a lot that he can do before he graduates, but to be one of the founding people of that group, it's kind of exciting for him. And then my son, the other boys, right? Peyton's going to be graduating high school. He's already certified as a mechanic in 3 different categories, and he's looking to be certified in another 2 or 3 probably before he graduates. So he's already has opportunities even before he graduates high school. That's kind of what he enjoys doing is working with cars. The same with my son Zachariah, who just turned 16. So he and I are actually going. He and I are going to look at a truck tomorrow night that he'd like to purchase and work on and everything. So yeah, it's gonna be kind of fun. And then my girls, my Miriam, remember Miriam?
Oh yeah.
She got 5 or 6 deer this year and got her trophy buck. So she's getting a 10 point uh, mounted, if you will. And then the other 5 were does that she ended up, that we're using for meat. That's been good for us. So the buck was basically ground up because he's a little older, but the other deer, um, I've been one deer she ended up getting for another family. But yeah, wide variety. And of course, we have the homeschooling performing arts. So Maggie and Peyton and Zachariah are all performers in the homeschooling performing arts that we've got going on. Yeah.
And then last but not least, we have the other one.
Yes, Michaela. So yes,
Queen Bee.
she's doing well. She's been at her new job for about 6 months, has already been promoted. And
That's surprising.
yeah,
That's,
yeah. So, but I mean, it's definitely, she's doing well. And so she'll be coming back to Michigan here. She actually has a the bridal shower coming up. That'll be in March. And that, I think I think we've got 70, 70 invites for women to come to the bridal shower. So I'm like, how many?
I'll have to
So
check with Edie and see if she got one of those. I don't know if she did or not. We're not on that exclusive list. We're close, but we're not that close. I mean, Michaela, it's just nice to get a save the date from her.
yes, yes. The invites and everything like that have been pretty exclusive when it comes to the bridal shower and everything. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So yeah,
Well,
fun
they're doing
stuff.
a good job. Okay, let me reset this thing. We're going to go to break here, and you guys
Okay.
got to want to stick around for this because Craig's here. Craig Stiles, Ameriprise Financial, our guy, our financial advisor, calling this one the fiduciary. I didn't really know what a fiduciary was. So I just, as researching this thing with Craig being his 29th visit to our radio program, understanding what that is very important. And so we will define what that is and throw some questions to Craig about why it's important for you to understand that if you have someone that's designated as your fiduciary, that there are extreme benefits in why you want to do this and why you want to pay your fiduciary to have your back, having your back. Craig Stiles, the fiduciary. He's got our back, and this is the Tom Mann Show. Hey, everybody, welcome back to what we call the Tom Mann Show. Like hearing Sandy's voice on those intros, back into the segments, if you're listening to radio, yeah, that's Sandy. I think most people know that. This segment is sponsored by my guest today, Craig Stiles. Getting ready to do our annual review here in a little while after we get done recording this. We got some other things that we're going to be doing. Craig Stiles has been with us for a long time. He's been managing our retirement zone savings for a while, and it's working out really well. If you want to get some more input on what happened last year with, our investments, go to that previous episode and listen to it, because we talked about our return. I'm not going to say anything about that right now, but it was good. And that's why Craig is the guy. And that's why you want to call Craig, because he's the guy and you can trust him with the right financial advisor. Life can be brilliant, as Craig likes to say, Ameriprise likes to say, and I like to say, because I like B-isms. Call Craig, 1-800-528-1355. You can call his local number, 517-483-4893, or you can email him, craig.stiles@ampf.com. Tell him you heard it from me. It'll be good. Go to our website too and just click on through and I'll take you right there too. Offices are located at 2651 Coolidge Road, Suite 103, East Lansing, Michigan 48823. Stations that have carried us in the past carry us now. Of course, we have the Michigan Talk Network. We're blasted all over the Midwest on that one. WJM 1240 AM in Lansing being the flagship, thanks to Steve and Ivy Gruber, carrying us multiple times on weekends. 92.1 FM Grand Haven carried us. WJHN carried us for a long time. First on broadcast radio ever. WJRW 1340 in Grand Rapids carried us for a long time. WKOQ 1490, a member of the Michigan Talk Network. So is WYPV, FM 94.5 Mackinac City. And, of course, we've got Michigan State University, our flagship over there. On PBS is WKAR AM 870 and simulcast at 102.3 FM, Sundays at 5. Check that one out. Craig Stiles created Decidary Analytics, where we are making light of weighted decisions. His proprietary algorithm has helped college students with their capstone projects. It is an amazing, amazing creation that he brought together, and it will make you the difference that you really need with your finances. And that's why we're talking about the fiduciary with Craig today. Okay, Craig, so give me your basic definition. You've said this before on the show. I know you have, but we're going to have the whole show today about the fiduciary and why the fiduciary is so important. But first, let's define it. Go right ahead, please.
Well, I mean, I guess the crux of it is making financial decisions, or more specifically, decisions on my client's behalf. And when I make decisions on my client's behalf, I got to make sure that I'm working in their best interest first and foremost. So a lot of times when you have like a regular brokerage or a person who's working based on a commission-based relationship, that's not always the case. So I can go around and find a particular product. If both products are very much identical to one another in performance, I could actually choose a product that would pay me more from a commission-based. So as a fiduciary, you have to weigh that very closely, making sure that if I do pick a product that I get paid more on, I have to basically show and prove that that product is actually better for my client than the one that I would not get it paid as much on. So it really ties our role as a financial advisor, as an individual, that I am looking out for the best interests of my clients.
How many brokers, just a guesstimate here, Craig. Craig Stiles, our guest today, everybody, talking about financial fitness, of course, and specifically the fiduciary. But how many brokers would you just guesstimate, totally, just a guess, are not fiduciaries? How many are not fiduciaries? Would it be like a 50%, 25%?
That would be a tough question to address, because it's more on how they conduct their business. For example, I can have a client that one client that'd be with me, but I could have two separate accounts. One would be a brokerage account that's commission-based, that's not applied to a fee. Another one that is a fee-based relationship, to where I'm making all the decisions on what is being bought and sold within that platform. So in the fee-based account, I am acting as a fiduciary on behalf of my client. In the brokerage account, I am not acting as a fiduciary within that. So it's really more tailored into how the relationship is structured. Now, there are businesses that are out there that are 100% fee-based. Now the area there is you'll hear people talk about being completely fee-based. That could also mean you come in, you sit down, you pay the person $1,500 for a meeting. They put together a financial plan for you. You take that financial plan, but then you go off and implement it yourself. And then you schedule a time over the next year. Then you pay the person maybe $1,000 because they already have all of this information, just needs to be updated. And then you see how your performance is doing, and then that's completely done. So that is a fee-based platform, but then they're not really acting or making any major investment decisions. They're just giving you ideas or suggestions, and then you have to go out and implement. So it's really tough to kind of answer that question because it really tailors as to how the different financial institutions are structured individually, and then how the advisor for that institution works in regards to are they working in a fiduciary capacity or not.
Okay, so that's a question, and this is something for people to write down on the dust on their dash right now. That's a question you want to ask a new person. If you're interviewing people to help you with your finances, ask them that question. I mean, call Craig. Here's the thing about calling Craig. Again, the number 1-800-528-1355. Call Craig or email him and just ask him questions. Watch some of his almost 30 interviews here, financial fitness, over many, many years now, and see what you think about this because you need to find people that are going to manage your money that you can trust. I'm gonna read this definition here. I'm gonna let Craig set up the rest of the episode because the fiduciary has a lot of responsibilities. But according to the all-knowing internet, a fiduciary is anyone who must act in the best interest of a client or customer. Attorneys, bankers, company board members are all examples of fiduciaries because they're legally required to maintain the best interest of their client. They offer a higher level of trust to those who work with them. And that's the whole point. So, Craig, got a couple minutes before we go to break here. I've got some points I want to talk about with unbiased advice, transparent fee, fewer conflicts of interest, so forth and so on. But why don't you set up the rest of the show? We got 3 more segments to go with this bad boy. What do you think is the most important, or the several points that we should discuss that is important for our listeners?
One is to understand what kind of relationship that person wants to have with an advisor. What's their expectation from working with a financial advisor? Do they want to delegate a lot of the financial decisions to that advisor? And then if they do, does that advisor they're interviewing have the capabilities to do what they need? Whether it's managing cash flow, whether it's product investment, whether they have a large amount of products from which to choose, you want to see if that is actually a good fit along those lines. You could be planning and doing all sorts of financial planning, but the rubber meets the road when you come down to taking a look at what is the investments that you're going to be applying to your portfolio, if you will, or your financial plan. And then what is the process to find those products? And you want to have confidence in that process in the event that the markets do their thing. The markets are going to be volatile. They're going to have their ups and their downs. And are you going to be comfortable with that up and down and at your withdrawal rates and a wide variety of things? So
Understanding the relation that you need, that's great advice for anything. I mean, if you want to go play softball or you want to go to the gym or you want to find a trainer, understand the relationship and the expectations. Would you say that we are, or I am, a person who delegates to you, Craig?
yes.
And the only reason I ask him that question is because we're going to break here. Craig Stiles is here, the fiduciary. You're listening to the Tom Ash Show. Hey, everybody, welcome back. This segment of the Tom Ash Show, you like that voice? Kind of like that. I'm going to go with this segment of the Tom Ash Show is sponsored by Brock Fletcher at the selling team of Keller Williams Realty. And if I keep doing that, I won't be able to talk. Okay, so I'm not going to call Brock today. 517-853-6408 is the office number. His cell phone number is 517-303-3262. And actually, Brock does prefer that. If you want to text him or leave him a voicemail, go for that because he always leaves a message in his voicemail that says, I'll be returning calls at a certain amount of time. And frankly, you want to talk to Brock because Brock's the boss. He's the guy, but he's got a tremendous, tremendous team of people, just like Craig Stiles does with Ameriprise. He's got a tremendous team as well. I mean, Mike Dedman was our buyer's agent for Little House Lansing, where we're recording this episode today. Brock was our seller's agent when we sold Big House Holt and got rid of that giant thing, which that was an emotional thing. He was more of a counselor. If you're looking for a real estate counselor, Brock Fletcher might be the guy because he gets it. He understands, and he's just not trying to make money off of you. He's trying to help your family and sell your home without the hassles because that's what he does. Most agents spend an average of $420 a month on marketing. Now, that may sound like a lot, but Brock spends thousands on marketing dollars every month to create demand that sells homes fast and for the top dollar, like he did for us. That's why you want to reach out to him. So please do that. If you do not support our sponsors, at least listen to the episodes. We can't do this radio program, and we're getting a lot of good reviews on people giving us a lot of good compliments on this stuff, and we want to help people. That's what we're here for. But without our sponsors, it makes it very, very challenging to do what we do. And so please, Craig, Brock, go to our homepage, tommattshow.com. Bottom, you can find those guys there, find their episodes. You got financial fitness, you got reality real estate. Go there and call these guys. We're not going to cost you a dime. All right, back to Craig talking about the fiduciary. The fiduciary. Okay, I gave the definition according to all-knowing Google. And I have got some points here I want to throw to Craig because he just gave us the one key for fiduciaries, understanding the relationship and the expectations, and do we delegate? And as we all know now, I'm a 100% delegator. I mean, I might be 150% delegator. It's like, can you come over and take my trash out for me or something like that? You know, I need Craig to come over and mow the lawn when we're traveling. So, that kind of stuff. Craig,
I might delegate that to one of my kids.
well, you've got the lawn service as one of your sons who's got his own business going. I mean, you got so many things going on over there at that house in Williamston. It's crazy. Okay, the first thing that comes up on this list that I have here, there, Mr. Stiles, unbiased advice. Fiduciaries are legally required to provide unbiased advice. I think everything along the fiduciary is legally required, but unbiased advice. How often do you get people, programs? I don't know what you call them. What do we call all the money that we invest? All of those funds. How many times do you get, what are they called?
I'm just talking about the separately managed accounts, the
Yeah,
SMA,
all that kind of stuff. I
mutual
mean,
funds,
you
ETFs.
get
Yep.
people coming to pitch you how
Oh, the
great,
wholesalers. Yeah.
yeah, the wholesalers, and they come in to pitch you. I mean, they come to pitch me, I'll probably buy it.
Yep.
Being the know nothing that I
Being the
am.
delegator that you are, you would probably say, as long as this will, if I don't have to worry about this, then okay, whatever it
I don't
costs,
want
I'll do
anyone.
it.
I don't want to work. I don't want to think about it. We're way beyond stress. We're like, take it away. But unbiased advice. I mean,
Yep.
you're one of the most. I mean, dude, you're one of the most honest people out there. You're such a good Christian. You're just you're Catholic. I mean, we lucked out when we met you, thanks to Dave DeMarco. But please, unbiased advice. Go ahead, bro.
So one of the, I mean, that basically ties into why I ended up building Definitary Analytics 15, 20 years ago. Um, it was that areas that I really struggled with because financial advisory is a very sales oriented business. A lot of financial firms will limit the number of mutual fund families that organizations work, or they would just have a sales staff that would just go off and sell these mutual funds. We have a growth fund, we have a value fund. And you'll notice that even within a lot of 401k plans, a lot of 401ks have reduced the number of actively managed mutual funds and increased the number of exchange traded funds or ETFs, have increased the number of lifestyle funds within them to minimize the decision making that the participant in the 401k can do. And so they would delegate that, and then the primary purpose or primary component where they start to compete is now on price. And so then the question starts to become, if you're not doing the proper, or you're not working your client's best interest unless you're making a recommendation for the cheapest product. And so that is one of the areas to where I've always struggled to where, but there are products, there's actively managed portfolios that can reduce the risk or exposure volatility for a client. And yeah, it's going to cost more than just buying an overall index fund, but the net result is what the client needs and expects. So how do you find that product? What do you do, and what characteristics or stats do you look at to compare to the underlying index or whatever? So Definitary Analytics helps me to act in that capacity to where, all right, this is how volatile the markets are presently. this is a criteria if we think we're going to be in more of a defensive cycle. What criteria should I be applying to products and during what time periods? So I can basically have a profile already built, apply it to data sets, and then it sorts and ranks what products are there. Now it creates a list for us to be able to select from. So when you come into my office and we're sitting down trying to decide what investment product is going to be best going forward, understanding what your income needs are, what your growth needs are, what your estate planning needs are, whatever that is. Now we have all of the pieces together, and then the investment component starts to put those pieces and start to make the picture of it, if you will. So that is probably the most important component of what I try to do in regards to utilizing that platform, because I can't come off and just say, oh well, here, you need a growth fund, we have the perfect growth fund for you, and then another client comes in, oh, we've got a growth fund, we need to have and make the same recommendation of a growth fund. Where some cases that may be the case, but at least I have a process that highlights, we make these tweaks and adjustments, here's one strategy, we make some tweaks and adjustments for client number two coming in, and the number may be the same, but the rank and order may be the same, may be different, but the rank and order may be the same. So like there are chances where I could be making the same recommendation on product to a particular client, but now I have a process that justifies me making that product or making that recommendation. So that is, I think, one of the more important components of what I do is helping the client feel comfortable with what they currently have and making sure that the goals are met, help them to take the focus off the current volatility or short-term fluctuations in the market, and allows them to stay focused on the longer term. So this way they're not making long-term mistakes with short-term decisions.
Well, that's what I called you for last week, was because we needed to just kind of adjust things. Craig Stiles is our guest today, everybody. He is our fiduciary, and I called this one the fiduciary, as our financial fitness guru and our guy from Ameriprise who manages all of our retirement zone savings. I need to know, and I have absolute 1,000% confidence that Craig is going to give me unbiased advice. He will give you unbiased advice because that's just how he rolls. And I like the way, Craig, that you rolled in the decedary into the explaining why. I mean, because you have to have some type of mechanism or tool that is going to be fair and it's going to be legit. And so Decedary makes you legit. Got a minute to go before we go to break here. I got a couple of things I want to ask you about. Fewer conflicts of interest, transparent fees. What are important things that we need to discuss in continuing this conversation, Craig?
Well, again, the Decedary Analytics is kind of touching on that as well, to where I, for example, firm traded models. A lot of different organizations are going to utilize their models that are built by their own firm or their own research department. In most cases, if I cannot compare the research department of the firm with that of other third-party asset managers, I'm not going to utilize the firm traded models. And when I do break up those models and I recreate them, most cases, the reduction of volatility, increase in performance isn't there, therefore justifying me to use an actual product that I would actually get paid less on.
And we will talk all about all of this because you need to know about the transparent fees. You need to know about the tools that are available. His fewer conflicts of interest. Decedary gives him all of that. We'll talk about all of this when we come back. Again, Craig Stiles is our guest, resetting everything. Calling this one the fiduciary. This is a financial fitness guru episode, and Craig Stiles is the man. And I am Tom Matt, and we'll be right back. Hey, everybody, welcome back. Welcome back. Today, Craig Stiles is here, financial fitness. The fiduciary is what we're calling this episode. Craig's our man. He is the man. He is the Ameriprise guy, and he is our guy who takes care of all of our retirement zone savings. I hope that more people start to incorporate retirement into their lives because frankly, retirement can happen at any point in your life. You might be 25 years old and just changed jobs, or you decided you didn't like what you did, blah, blah, blah. You could be 50. You could be 65. It just depends. It depends. But retirement is open to everybody. Craig, how would you like people to connect with you, get a hold of you, help other people manage their retirement zone savings? What's the plan?
The easiest thing is that you can actually Google my name, Yahoo my name, Bing my name, whatever. You can get on Chat GBT, I'm sure, and just kind of say, hey, find Craig Stiles with Ameriprise, and then my information will pop up. That's one of the more easier ways to find it because it'll take you directly to my website and all my contact information. My local phone number is 517-483-4893. Again, it's 517-483-4893. You could shoot me an email directly, and in the subject line, you could say schedule an appointment or something like that. And that email is Craig.Stiles, C-R-A-I-G .Stiles, S-T-I-L-E-S, at AMPF, so that's Adam Michael Paul Frank.com.
There you
Pretty
go.
simple.
Easy enough. Again, the 800 number, 1-800-528-1355. There's almost 30 episodes on our website. Check those out. I'm sure if you have questions, you can probably find the answers because there's a variety of topics when it comes to financial fitness that we talk about on all of those episodes. They're a lot of fun. They're fun to listen to, and that's what I hear on the reviews from people. It's like they really like our play with the guests and the information that's being transferred. All right, so we're talking about the fiduciary. We've got two so far that Craig has set. Unbiased advice. It was number two. Number one was understanding the relationship, expectations, and delegating. What are your needs? You got to know what your needs are. With Decidary analytics takes away the cloudiness of transparency of like fees, Craig, and that's one of the things on the list. Transparency of fees. Is that something that you discuss with your clients? Is
Yes.
I know the answer to this, but I'm just saying, for a new client, please take it from there.
Yeah, basically, we go through and break down what the fee structure is for the client. So depending on the platforms on which you have access to the products, the asset manager that we end up hiring, and then the fee that we charge ourselves from an advisory fee standpoint. And then from that area, a lot of folks will be looking at, well, we don't get charged that much by our advisor. But then you have to pay attention that if they're utilizing mutual funds, there's going to be some type of internal fee affiliated with the mutual fund, whether it's a 12B1 fee or if it's going to be an asset management fee or an expense ratio internal to the fund itself. That adds on to the actual cost that a client's paying to own a mutual fund, or participate in that particular investment strategy. So when we sit down with clients and they have an understanding of what our overall fee structure that we have access to, and how we make the recommendations, the process that we go through, and then implement. So from that standpoint, we just help the client through that process, and then we make the recommendation and suggestion based on it going forward. So
Is Decidary Analytics, is that included in all of your clients' portfolios? I'm just curious. I mean, do you use that for everyone or is it depending on the situation?
pretty much in the fee-based platform, but it really depends on the situation. I give an example. I had a new client come in, and with the Feds going on and making some changes, we didn't have some of the fee-based accounts or established as of yet, and money came in on a Tuesday, and we got talking about the investments, and the Feds were going to come out with a notification on Wednesday. And we kind of had an idea of what the Feds are going to do with rates and how the market's going to respond, and want to get invested right away. So I just went onto my Decidary platform, went into an exchange traded funds, and quickly just did a weight utilizing my defensive criteria, applied it to, this is going to get your eyes glass over, right? And applied it to blended strategies and picked the top 3 exchange traded funds for ETFs. So you had 2 growth ETFs and 1 dividend paying ETF, and plugged them into and basically with the dividend paying ETF, we put, roughly about $500,000 or so into that. And then the other 2 ETFs, we added 250,000 to each of those. So from that standpoint, we got them invested rather quickly, but that is a passive strategy, not something that we're actively managing. And I had to, once I made that suggestion or recommendation on what I'm buying, I can't transact that because that's in a brokerage account. So that's where I talk with them about. So that's an idea of how I used it in a non-fiduciary standpoint, to where I'm talking with the client, I've ran through the process, we make the selection from the list of products that gets created, versus that of a fiduciary standpoint, to where I go through, I make the recommendations, and I implement without having to address the client because it's already applied to their needs and their goals.
And that's again where the Decidary platform comes in. So that answers the question on the fee-based side of things. And on the fee-based side of things, you get the fiduciary. So that's
Yep.
the difference is when you are paying the fee-based platform, you are going to get these other tools that come along with it. So keep that all in mind. All right, what about a conflict of interest? What would be a conflict of interest for a financial manager, a fiduciary?
Well, a couple of examples there is if you're going through and making a trade, and say, for example, you're investing in similar products as your clients are, okay? And you have a larger book of business, and you know that when I make this change, the markets could move. I'm going to use that term loosely. So if I go through and I make a purchase of a particular product a day or two before I rebalance my book of business, know I'm going to buy a lot into that product, that could boost my net worth before my basically act in my best interest, if you will, versus that of what for my rest of my clientele base. That is one area in which conflict of interest is a big no-no in that type of trading taking place. So there are constant monitoring that takes place within the financial advisors, what's going on with their personal accounts. So I always have to have that stuff disclosed. So that way conflicts of interest don't participate or don't take place. So that's just one example of how a conflict of interest could take place to where I benefit more than that of my book of business or any of my clients.
Gotcha. And that's a very, very clear answer on all of this. Okay, how about tailored advice? Does the fee-based, the fiduciary side of your business and does the brokerage side of things, they both kind of get a tailored advice, but as a fiduciary, you have a certain obligation. Can you please talk about that?
Well, it's kind of interesting how you talk about it from a tailored advice standpoint because you always hear this, oh, we'll customize a portfolio for you. It's specific for you. 90% of the time, what they're doing, they're utilizing firm traded models. And then all they're going to do is tweak the asset allocation. Well, you, Tom, we're only giving you 65% of this portfolio. And, Sandy, we're going to give her 64% of this portfolio. So it's completely tailored for you guys, but it's the exact same portfolio. You're just giving different money to each. And that's always been rather frustrating for me because I sit there and think what you're basically doing, you want to educate the client on what they're actually investing into. Why are we picking this particular strategy? And just to use your example, right? In your area, we're actually utilizing three different institutional strategies for you and Sandy. Two particularly for Sandy, one particularly for you, but we also look at them in aggregate, and then we made some modifications when income needs are adjusted, growth needs are adjusted, whatever it might be. We reevaluate what strategies are most appropriate, but I use a screen process that is specific to the client. So that is what I think is rather unique about what I enjoy doing about Decetary because it makes the search process unique. And then if products that float to the top or happen to be similar from one client to the next, even though the clients appear to be different, the objective is making sure that the goal for the individual client, because your goals are going to be different from one client to the next, that your goals are achieved. And that is what I think is really distinguishes what we do and what other advisors might do in their platforms.
Is that something that Ameriprise, Craig, we only got about 30 seconds to go before break here, but is that something that Ameriprise embraces?
I wish it's something that is very unique to our group and our team. So I've brought what I've done to Ameriprise and basically have offered to provide this tool because I do think it is very unique and rather unique, but it is more specific, unique to our team and our group.
That
So
is a very, very,
not every Ameriprise advisor has access to it. No.
and see, that's the thing with Craig, everybody. Craig, I'm going to carry this through because you're going to get the straight story from him. That's a tough question. He didn't know that was coming. I throw him a question like that.
I didn't know any of these questions were coming.
None of them. He didn't know any of this stuff. He never does. I mean, that's the whole thing about being spontaneous radio. It's like we want to have, that's where we have these conversations. And I want to have my listeners' backs, but so does Craig. And
Yeah.
I was asking you about the tailored advice. The word that came into my head that I wrote on my notes here, bro, sketchy. When these people
Yeah.
are giving you the marketing and it sounds too good to be true. Hey, you
Yep.
tailored it. Your system is so perfect. It's perfect for you.
Yep. Well,
Well,
that's why in many cases, like I highlighted, or if they're going to be talking with another financial advisor, ask them, well, how did you come up with that particular product? Why are you recommending this particular product?
there you go. We'll come back about that. Ask the why. Craig Stiles is here, the fiduciary. This is the Tom Mann Show. Great answer.
I mean, not to digress from that, but I'm reviewing a prospective client's account right now at another firm. And that's exactly what they did. He has a moderately aggressive and an
Hold it.
aggressive account.
This is, let's spin this right into the end of the episode, dude. This goal. Let's go. Here we go. I need your contact info one more time, but then we'll
Okay.
go. I'm going to go right back to the tailored advice and you tell your story. Okay.
All right.
Here we go. Hey, everybody. The Fiduciary, today's episode with Craig Stiles, financial fitness guru, 29th visit to this radio program. Why is that? Well, there's several reasons. Craig's been with us for a long time. He manages all of our retirement zone savings. We trust him implicitly, and he's one of the most honest, if not the most honest person I've ever met in my life, and he's got my back. And so, Craig, before we get back into the tailored advice and having my back, please share your contact info one more time in case people are just joining us.
Local phone number is 517-483-4893. Again, it's 517-483-4893. And then, of course, you can send me an email at Craig, Craig.Stiles, Stiles, at ampf.com.
Okay, so the last question that we had in the previous segment, everybody, that thread that we just closed, is talking about a story that Craig was going to share. I asked him a very pointed question. Does Ameriprise embrace the Desideri algorithm? And Craig immediately said he wishes, and that's fine. I mean, he's being honest, and maybe they will someday. But this is the difference between Craig's team and the rest of the world out there. So, Craig, you have this story. I just set you up for this one. Please, you gave some tailored advice to a new client, and
Well, the dynamic was with the prospective client that's coming in. I was evaluating their portfolio. In the previous segment, I kind of highlighted how you'll have an asset allocation structure or firm traded models, and then the way they make it tailored is that they just change the asset allocation of maybe 3 or 4 models that the firm recommends, and then you just give a certain amount to each model. So if you're a 60-40, 70-30, 60% stocks, 40% bonds, or 70% stocks or 30% bonds, then they classify that as being one is tailored for you, one is tailored for Sandy. But that stock portion of the portfolios is exactly the same, and the bonds portion of the portfolio is exactly the same. The only thing that's tailored to you is the allocation that you've given to each strategy. So that basically creates a risk return that kind of goes along the spectrum to where if you're taking the same risk and same volatility, same performance, if you will, of the index, you're gonna get the same performance of the index. If you increase your fixed income, you're going to get less performance, but you're going to get less volatility. If you increase your allocations, you're going to get better performance, but more volatility. But what do you do to try to get into that other quadrant that reduces risk and increases performance? How do you find those strategies? Very few strategies or abilities to try to find that are actually implemented within a portfolio. So with this particular prospective client, when I went through and was looking at the portfolios, that one account was moderately aggressive, the other one was aggressive, and the accounts were invested in exactly the same products, just different shares. That was it. And so when I compared the overall performance relative to what I'm making a recommendation on, they could distinctly see the difference. And I actually put it down to where there's presumed they weren't paying a fee at all, even though I know it's a fee-based platform, with us at the fee level that was appropriate for them. And so from that perspective, you're looking at that us net of fees was still outperforming and having a less volatility than what they were accustomed to. So the big difference, I think, was highlighting and that custom approach to search for this particular client, and then being able to share with them why I'm making the recommendation. When I would ask that question about, well, why this particular strategy? I mean, you're utilizing individual stocks, mutual funds, and ETFs, all in particular one areas. Do you understand fully what the process is that made this recommendation to begin with? And not so much. And so that's where I think we engage our clients more during that process, because now when you come in for a review, I can run the screen on the most recent data. We can see where your product fits and relates with what is out there. And we can make the decision, do we keep it or do we not keep it? Because now we have the history with what clients have had or experienced in their own portfolios. And if it's meeting their goals, there really isn't a need to change unless there's something egregious in regards to the overall performance or what our expectations are going forward in the market. So But 90% of the time, we would maintain and keep the strategy because clients have become accustomed to it. They're familiar and comfortable with the process, and they're happy with the overall end results.
So let me ask you a question, and I don't know if you know this answer or not because we don't practice any of this stuff. When you had the meeting with this client, you ran the numbers, you ran the Desideri program, you got everything on the algorithm, and then you came even past after fee-based costs.
Mhm.
Was how much was the increase over what they were doing before compared to what Desideri decided to pitch? How much was that?
Comparing, I mean, obviously, a lot of the numbers is always on historical numbers, right? So if I go through and take a look at what the performance of their numbers were, you're looking at roughly about 2 to 3 percentage points per year on 3, 5, and 10-year numbers.
Okay,
And then
so
you're looking at the risk for the most part was about the same. Now, keep in mind, the strategies that I'm implementing is almost a 100% stock strategy where they had one account was 60/40 and the other one was roughly 50/50 almost in stocks and bonds. So I think in aggregate it was roughly about 55/35, 55/45 in stocks versus that of bonds. So here I am demonstrating that even with the 100 stock portfolio, we're able to maintain the same level of risk as a 55 stock, 45% bond portfolio. And we've been able to increase their annualized rate of return in 3, 5, and 10 years. So now, is this always going to be the case? Not always. Sometimes I'm like, well, the strategy you're in right now actually looks pretty good. And I can even demonstrate that as well. So it just gives that affirmation for the client on whether or not is this going to be a change, or we can at least maintain what they're currently doing. I mean, ironically, there's three primary things that I'm trying to achieve for clients when we sit down and evaluate their portfolios and what they're doing. Number one, taking the same risk, can we increase their performance? Number two, can we maintain their same performance and reduce their risk? Number three, can we reduce the risk and increase performance? So if I can't demonstrate one of those three features, I would be recommending to the clients is you're doing pretty well, and that structure that you're in presently seems to be achieving your goals. So there, at that point, there'd have to be another reason why they would want to change. It could be a service model that they're not accustomed to. They haven't spoken with this person in 3 or 4 years or 5 years, or they just don't feel comfortable with how they're running the operation, whatever the structure might be. Now it's at least a different reason as to why they make an adjustment. But where the rubber meets the road is when they're selecting the investment product that helps them to achieve their goals going forward.
So have you had many cases where, situations where you did not flip the client? You said, no, your portfolio looks good, and I would advise you to leave it there. Does that happen?
Um, well, there's been a couple situations where I have made that suggestion. Um, I can't recall of any right off the top of my head, just because what we do is so different. And so I literally just challenge them in regards to what they're trying to accomplish. So meaning how they got to what they're utilizing presently, what got them to their current investment product.
The reason I asked that, Craig, was my last point here to finish off the episode was on our list from All Knowing Google. Peace of mind was the last one that the fiduciary definition came with. And it said you can have peace of mind knowing that your wealth is being managed in your best interest.
Right.
And what you were just saying, this could be our takeaway for the whole
Yep.
show. Please talk about that. That
Yep.
peace of mind, because you're now
Well,
you're talking to me.
right now, I mean, at that point, that's kind of how I'm highlighting to them on what the best interest is for them. So if they're looking at what they're currently doing and they have a rather complicated financial situation, um, but they seem to be meeting their goals and their objectives, it's going to be completely different reason why they're changing from one relationship to another. They may not feel like that person's investing in their best interest. I mean, just to put it in perspective. I mean, I'm okay in putting it out there as well. I mean, our fee-based platform is roughly about 1.5%. So I basically said our clients aren't going to pay any more than 1.5%. So one relationship that just transitioned, they're paying 55 basis points at this other relationship, and then they transitioned to our 1.5%. But I was able to demonstrate the net result of what our recommendation offers and still maintain the risk level for their portfolio, even though the asset allocation is different. So the next step for them was basically our service model, our ability to be able to meet all of their financial needs. So 90% of our clients, we're their financial hub, right? It's being registered in 25, 26. Got to try to remember how many states we presently have, that we're registered in. Um, Making sure that no matter where our clients are in the United States or globally, they have access to their funds. We're a phone call away. They're talking to people. They're not talking to a 1-800 number. So our clients know that we know their situations, what their needs are, and we kind of work to go that extra step for them. So,
That's important. And I got one really quick question here. It's like with Ameriprise, you said you're in 26, you're certified in or licensed in 26 states for your group, but
yep.
Ameriprise is probably licensed in all of them, correct? So if you're not,
Ameriprise, right. Ameriprise is offered in pretty much every state in the union and abroad. So,
okay, so my point being, everybody, is if you're hearing what Craig's saying and you like what he's saying, you can always get a hold of Craig and he can vet someone for you or point you in the direction of somebody at Ameriprise that could be helpful to you. So don't give up on that whole thing because maybe he's not certified in that state and he is. All right, Craig, I'll give you 30 seconds for another quick takeaway and then I got to go. Go ahead.
oof, you leave it kind of open up for me now. 30 seconds. What can I do? Basically, I think from this is making sure that you have a strong understanding of who that you're working with as a financial advisor, appreciating what they have to offer, and making sure that the product that they're offering is really meeting your overall goals and objectives. So,
That's the bottom line for having a fiduciary, managing your financial fitness. And that's Craig Stiles. If our show fits your business, our group's mission, we want to be of service to you through our guests, topics, all of it. Always remember before you can share love with others, you must love yourself first. Close the show every time. Thanks to Craig Stiles, Sandy, Brock. We'll talk to everybody next weekend. Have a great week, everybody. Go out and ignite your life. Good day. Now, remember, the Tom Matt Show is a production of Boomers Rock Media. Thank you to Craig Stiles. And last, I want to say outstanding work by Mitch Anderson and Vanessa, our production team. Thank you so much. We are out. Craig Stiles is the bomb. Love him so much. 29th visit to the radio program. Unbelievable. The Fiduciary. What else do you want me to talk about? The biggest thing for Craig is the relationship. You've got to have a relationship with your financial people. If you don't, then and your money disappears. So sorry, Charlie. So until next time, everybody, I'm Papa Tom. You've been listening, watching, doing that thing with the Tom Matt Show, and we're so grateful to all of you. Please subscribe to the channel on YouTube because that's helping us a lot. And we want more and more people to know what we're doing here. And it's very, very important for us to share. Thank you so much for doing what you do. We are out. Talk to you next time. Peace out. Love you all.